As you'd expect from this channel, I'm about to share another short video on property, and this one specifically talks about housing affordability in Sydney. It turns out average Sydneysider needs to work for 12 years to buy an average home in Sydney, where the average overall or long-term average was not 12, was not 10, was not 5. It turns out it was 3 years. So you would have had to work 3 years, or your yearly salary times 3 would have bought you an average home in Sydney. Now that's clearly not the case. Now you have to work 12 years, which is completely obviously ridiculous. Everybody knows it. So only a person that is really desperate to get rid of the cash would be buying into Sydney property now. It is without doubt the only case you'd be doing it now. And who are these people? They would be people who would be afraid, hint hint, Chinese investors, would be afraid that their government will take away all of their money. So they're better off buying into an overpriced United States, West Coast, East Coast properties, obviously Sydney, Melbourne, and even if that means that they may have to lose 30%, 40%, they're still happy with it. It's almost a way of money laundering or getting the money out of their country, because you're better off having a haircut of 30, 40, even 50%, I'm not predicting anything, than having to lose all of it, having the Communist Party turn around, have some sort of a crisis, a credit crisis, liquidity crisis, and just say, hey, populace, we're going to have to take your money. And not that that can't happen in Sydney or in Australia or Western countries, because they've already got provisions to do that, what's called bail-ins. Look it up. That's a completely new video. But what I like about this one is how this next a guy being interviewed is talking about almost a perception or delusion that you are rich because you bought your house. And I hear this all the time. I live in Sydney. I bought it 20 years ago for $300,000, and now it's worth $1 million. But most people don't sell unless they want to sell and downgrade or upgrade property still. So they'll sell their place and they're going to go and buy another one that's just as expensive, unless there's one way you can actually win the property game in Australia, is that if you're retiring, or if you're for whatever reason moving out of Sydney and Melbourne, and you say want to go up to Queensland, Sunshine Coast, although that's getting expensive, but you could go further up, North Queensland, and you can get properties for next to nothing compared to, again, Sydney and Melbourne. So a lot of people think they're rich. They should only think about their children when they start working, getting into the workforce, and start making or trying to save money for deposit. That won't be possible. They won't be able to do it, so they'll have to borrow from their parents, or somehow their parents are going to have to help them out. But in my opinion, whatever the case is, people will find that when they bought property thinking it's a safe bet, property never goes down, never loses value. They'll find out it is the biggest ball and chain in their lives that they never imagined. They won't be able to get rid of it. The taxes will go through the roof. If you bought one of these apartments like that off the plan, or brand new apartments, your strata fees will go through the roof. You'll be struggling. A few years ago, I actually talked to my accountant, and he said he had clients come to him and cry because these investments that were going to have their negative gearing going and all the other tricks, it just didn't work out, because the rent they expected, they weren't getting it. There were vacancy rates, they're rising as well. The cracks are starting to appear in Sydney housing, but it's you ain't seen nothing yet. But watch this next video; it's pretty interesting.
The median household in Sydney would have to work 12 years to pay for the median house price in Sydney. Now, traditionally, we thought of housing affordability as a median multiple of 3. So you can see that Sydney is definitely severely unaffordable, only beaten in the survey by Hong Kong. Median multiples of 6, 9 or 12, as in the case of Sydney, you can definitely say that the housing ladder has lost its bottom rungs. So we're basically dividing society into two parts, owners and non-owners. And if you're unlucky enough not to own your home when the median multiple stands at 12, you can basically forget about it. You will never be able to make your step onto the property ladder.
So how do you persuade the haves, those that have a house, that allowing others to enter the housing market would be good for everybody?
Well, the first thing to realize is, of course, that the money that you think you own is just an illusion. Because if you're trying to sell your home and cash in on the money, and you're then trying to buy your next place, of course you're going to spend the same money again. So actually, you may feel rich, but you're only rich on paper. And the second thing is, of course, that even if you're a homeowner, you've paid off your home, and you feel rich about yourself, well, if you've got kids, you might actually be asked to help them out, because otherwise they would never be able to even afford the deposit again. So I think, as a society, we should just realize that you cannot become rich as a society, as a nation, on the back of a buoyant housing market.
Okay, take care everyone.